Ah. It's time to help with the water again. But after being drawn from my room by the shriek of someone getting sprayed in the face with freezing water, all I could do was try to help. After I laughed. Girl, so evil. Which may have been a little mean, but I had done it while helping clean up. I suggested it might be a better idea to shut off the water main before trying to fix the pipe. I was no plumber, but that seemed the best course of action. But the last time they shut it off, it took 3 days to get it back on. No one wanted to risk the entire building being without water again. Fair enough. It was June who suggested I could try to help by holding back the water with a shield, essentially taking the place of a valve. That would give him time to repair the pipe. The problem was that I didn't really know how to do shields. My first attempt had resulted in both of us getting sprayed. Interesting, she's having a little bit more of a struggle this time. The second attempt was holding so far after he'd given me a better explanation how to do it. I turned out to be pretty good at picking up side techniques with minimal explanation. Cool, cool, cool. And now Rory's here. What am I doing with you, Rory? We're gonna give you some space this time. I made the immediate decision to give him space for now. All things considered, I couldn't be surprised that he was so skittish. And given our brief history, I didn't want to somehow set him off. I didn't want him turned away either. The last time we saw each other, he had seemed to have some sort of moment of clarity, as if remembering who he was, but I didn't want to approach him recklessly.
You know him?
Not really. We've met before, though. It was brief.
Huh. I can go. It's okay. I can go. I just didn't have anywhere else.
He tried to stand, clearly struggling to do so. He looked so thin, so tired and ill. Celeste must have been thinking the same. She let out a soft sigh and shook her head.
No, you're not going anywhere, regardless of what this guy says. Even if we couldn't put you up here, we wouldn't be turning you out on the street. From the looks of that hair, you've had issues with fade or burnout in the past, and I bet you're still battling some psi fatigue. I want to take a good look at you before anything else happens. Then we'll get you cleaned up and set up in a room, okay?
Rory looked relieved and momentarily sagged back into the sofa. And once again I felt nothing but pity for him. Poor man.
Is that okay, Morgan?
What? Oh, yes. I think that's fine. I had no idea why he was asking me. They were the ones in charge. Rowan was giving me a pretty intense stare, but I just shrugged. I didn't think Rory would hurt anyone. He seemed more in control of himself now than he had last time I saw him, and Celeste was right. We couldn't turn him away. Celeste helped Rory to his feet, and he cast a fearful glance at me as she started to lead him away. I tried to give him a reassuring smile as she called another person over to help her. They vanished into an adjacent hall moments later.
Seems like something's bothering you.
Nothing's really bothering me. I just feel bad for him. He seems like he's been through a lot.
How did you meet a guy like that?
It's complicated.
Humor me. I can't imagine you meet guys like that on the day side every day.
We have our problems over there, even if people try to pretend we don't.
Which doesn't change my opinion that you don't meet men like that every day.
Well, you aren't wrong, really. I met Rory the day before I met Jack. It was just a chance encounter. He was behaving oddly, saying strange things, acting very much abnormal. I assumed he was on something. It was a brief encounter, and we went our separate ways. Then I saw him again the next day after. I trailed off, unsure how much Rowan knew about the endgame situation.
After what?
After Endgame tried to kidnap me? I assume you've heard about that.
Jack caught us up on that situation, yeah. Though some might call that an arrest.
Sure. Anyway, after they drove the car into the wall like maniacs, we ended up at this damaged vivarium with me puking on the floor. And then we were attacked. I was separated from the others. I saw Rory there, but he was... I'm not sure how to describe it. For one, he looked different than he had the day before. Pale to an abnormal degree, hair white. His eyes were strange, even for an Esper. And he was still saying odd things. But he also seemed distraught. He attacked me at first, but then seemed to sort of realize where he was, who he was. He let me go after saying I saved him, and thanking me.
And you didn't consider warning us he was...
I don't think he's going to hurt anyone. Compared to how he was then, today he seemed completely in control of himself and aware of his surroundings. At the very least, he's not talking about eyes devouring him or snakes whispering to him. I said he was saying weird things.
I just prefer to send the ones like him somewhere else if we can. There are other people besides Celeste that can help him. A hell of a lot better than we can. You reckon it was drugs?
I don't. But I guess Rory is the only one that knows. Alright. So we had a longer conversation with Rowan because we weren't hanging out with Rory. Okay, so Jack came back looking tired. He tried to play it off as normal tiredness, but I knew he was using his sigh a lot lately. But I didn't feel like it was my place to say anything about it. I couldn't deny I was worried, though.
Come on, you don't have to be that worried about it. I'm sure he'll find something out soon enough.
I'm sure you're right. I hope you are, anyway. Okay. It's okay. You don't have to be strong in front of me, Rowan. I'm excellent at relationship advice, so you can always come to me.
I will be 5 days dead before I ever come to a kid like you for relationship advice.
Damn, tell me how you really feel. You're a loss, I guess.
Yeah, right.
Why don't you go to the mansion too if you dislike being apart?
I don't get along with some assholes that work there, that's why.
Oh? Interesting. We never did see Rowan at the mansion after all. I had a feeling there was a backstory there for sure. Rowan grinned, but didn't elaborate.
In any case, Veli suits that place better than I do.
I'm still looking forward to eventually meeting him.
Hopefully you'll get the chance soon. It's been a while since Kesa has come by, so I wouldn't be surprised if he visits soon.
Does he come here regularly, then?
Not as regularly as he'd like. He has to maintain appearances, after all. He comes as often as he can.
Okay. Here we go. It was a short time later that Jack arrived, much earlier than usual. Celeste intercepted him before he reached me, and they talked for a bit. She must have been catching him up on Rory's arrival. Probably telling him everything I told them earlier. I caught him looking my way a couple of times while they talked. I was watching him too, but for a different reason. Jack's psi energy was dull, fainter than usual. Even though he was smiling and acting normal, he was probably more tired than he let on. So, when he suggested a walk, I demurred and used the excuse that I was the one too tired. I suggested we go up to the roof for a while instead. The walk had become a routine, but he didn't seem to have a problem with a simple rooftop visit either. On the way up, he asked a bit more about Rory, and I rehashed what I told the others earlier. As usual, he had little to say about his own day. Right. Okay, so you've talked to Rowan.
I saw him on my way inside tonight.
Did he say anything specific? Okay. Emotional or analytical? I'm gonna guess analytical for this one. Ba, 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 ba. Yep. But I am still an outsider, Jack. I don't want to be. I'm trying not to be one. But I've only been here a couple of weeks. And I wasn't born here like everyone else.
Not everyone was born here, you know.
That may be true, but I don't think being an outsider is a bad thing. My experiences are so different from everyone else's that I can afford to have a different way of looking at things. Having an outside perspective is useful sometimes.
Do you Do you think you'll ever come to view yourself as anything but an outsider here?
I can't say. Seeing the future isn't a skill I've mastered yet. Ha ha! Ha, girl! You keep making references. One day you'll find out. But if you're asking whether I might come to like it here, I can honestly say I don't dislike it. Given the alternatives I had especially. But if I hated it, I wouldn't be coming up with ways to make it better. So there's that.
Well, I guess that's not a bad answer. For now.
Alright, and then we talked some more. The rather ordinary yellow star. Because I'd first heard almost that exact sentence in a lecture hall during one of my history courses. I'd always remembered them. They had seemed so poignant at the time, an eloquent and beautiful depiction of the connection we had to the home world of our ancestors. In Sylvia's journal, they sat at odds with the rest of her text. Out of place, uncomfortable. How had she quoted one of my lectures? I told myself it was possible she and the professor had got them from the same source, but that seemed unlikely. And after that, the fluttering anxiety in the pit of my stomach wouldn't leave. Yeah. Okay, so it was unnerving. She didn't know why. Well, that wasn't true. The idea the journal had been written for someone specific stirred uncomfortable questions. And if I accepted Sylvia wrote it knowing it would end up in the hands of someone who needed it, that meant being open to the idea she wrote it for me. And open to the idea Jack was aware of that when he gave it to me. That had a disquieting sense of inevitability to it. That Sylvia knew years ago that I would come here. That Jack would be here at the same time. And that she would die before that. Had she just accepted it? Did she try to change it and fail? Could the future be that unavoidable? And how horrible would it have been to know she would die? Yeah, all things I thought about while doing the best ending. Yeesh. To say those kinds of thoughts sent me into an existential crisis was an understatement. Maybe the issue was just that I didn't want to imagine everything about my life as part of some inescapable future someone else had already seen. The thought of it reminded me of discussing determinism in one of my philosophy courses. It was too hypothetical to be depressing back then, but confronted with the possibility that some people really knew how all this would play out, that Sylvia saw that her own death lay ahead of her and couldn't escape it, it was too heavy for me. How did one find hope and meaning in that? I stood staring into the darkness, thinking those kinds of happy thoughts, when something moved. Nope. Alright, Rory. Are we having an emotional or an analytical conversation with you today? Analytical. Please don't have a breakdown. Still, if he was this scared about being found, should I really dismiss it? Was that wise? What if his being here did put others in danger? Or if my being here did the same? Rory found me despite the reverse cages, which meant there was a hole in the defenses, or else there was something else going on. I didn't want to upset him, but this was important. Who is he? Can you tell me that, Rory? I spoke the words quietly, cautiously. His eyes rolled towards me, suddenly wide and fearful. The white stood out in the dim light. I really need to know. I need to... He jumped to his feet and clapped his hands over his ears.
No!
The window across the room groaned as a crack snaked its way through the glass. Okay, maybe not. I was on my feet right away as well, taking several quick steps away from him. Shoot, that escalated faster than I expected. It's all right, Rory. I shouldn't have asked.
I can't talk about it. He'll find me again.
It's okay then. You don't have to tell me.
I don't want to.
It's okay. I'm sorry. He backed to the far wall, holding his head in his hands as he crouched down. The air was practically vibrating with the strength of his sigh, something I hadn't expected. He was a rook. Why did he have such powerful telekinesis? I moved to the end of the bed with cautious intent and crouched down as well, lowering myself to his level. It's okay, Rory. Just calm down. Take deep breaths. You don't want to use your Psi when you're recovering, right? It'll worsen your condition. So I need you to calm down. I didn't mean to upset you. I didn't know if he was even hearing me at this point. His hands were gripping his hair and he was whispering something to himself. Words I couldn't hear. I understood now why the others were keen to have him talk to someone. His trauma was severe. But I was no psychologist, and it was possible I'd just made things worse. Chewing my lower lip, I stood and quietly moved away from him. Rory, I'm going to leave now. I'm really sorry I upset you.
Wait. Please. Don't go. Please stay with me. I don't want to be alone.
His voice was so broken and sad. I was just about to answer when there was a shout outside, followed by a commotion. What the... Okay, I'm going to go see what that is, and I'll be right back, okay? He nodded. Alright. And now Jack's back and injured. I knelt beside him, saying his name softly, though I was certain he was unconscious. His brow furrowed and a soft groan escaped him. Damn it, Jack! How could he get hurt like this?
Who were they that they could mess Jack up like this? I don't know. They were weird. They were acting weird. They looked weird. And they were strong. I barely got him away.
Okay. Ooh, I don't have the option to use Celeste's Psi this time. So what am I doing? He needs a hospital option. Okay. These injuries need a doctor. A hospital!
This is the only safe place for him, Morgan. You should know that.
Celeste can't help him right now.
Here, we can use this. Get the hell out of the way.
Alright, damn Carrie, go. She burst through the group that had gathered around us with some kind of box in her hands.
Come on, help me stop the bleeding.
She frantically yanked out gauze and handed it over to me.
Put pressure on his shoulder, Morgan.
Rowan, elevate his legs. I fumbled with the gauze and did as Carrie asked, focusing my attention on the wound on Jack's shoulder. He let out a pained groan as I pressed down on it. Sorry, Jack. I knew some basic first aid, but it wasn't anything that could help with injuries of this magnitude. But Celeste was going to be exhausted after helping Tara. Ugh. Please be okay, Jack. These injuries were serious. They needed a subdermal treatment for sure. He probably had internal bleeding from that injury in his side. And he was hit by a psi burst. Ari said they could cause severe damage to espers who couldn't block them. I tried to not think about that. For now, it was just important to stop the bleeding. If we could get him stabilized, there would be time to fix it all later. But one thing was evident as Carrie and I worked over him. It was not enough to have one doctor taking care of everyone at Cordis. Not when things like this happened. That there wasn't even a proper hospital nearby? I hate it. It felt like a very long time before Celeste joined us. I was barely listening as she told Rowan and June she'd just done a patch job on Tara, just to repair some of the damage and get her stable. Otherwise, she wouldn't have the energy to do the same for Jack. When she finally started working on him, I just sat nearby watching with a numbed feeling settling over me. It wasn't until June asked Rowan how he was that I remembered he was a little beat up as well. But he shrugged off offers to help and instead chose to stand there scowling down at Jack as Celeste tried to save his life. I buried my face in my knees until Celeste was finished working. He was still in bad shape, in her words, but he wouldn't die. She wasn't doing well herself by that point. Her face was ashen, voice trembling. She had to go rest, so the rest of his recovery would be up to his own abilities now that his Psi was stabilized. It would be a rough few days. June was the one that carried him up to his room. I volunteered to stay with him, but went to grab the blankets from my bed since we'd already passed out all the spares. This way I could just stay in his room and monitor him. There was never a chance to tell everyone what happened earlier with Rory, but there were more important things to worry about for now. I eventually dozed off next to him, glad he was mostly okay. Alright, we're almost halfway through. Okay, so Jack's probably going to be in worse shape this time. I let out a soft sigh and set a comforting hand on his hair, stroking my fingers through the sweat-damp strands. It's okay, Jack. You're okay. I wasn't sure what else to say to calm him down. It wasn't like he'd remember anything I said anyway. Not now. Perhaps I should bring it up when he was awake sometime. I didn't want him to feel guilty about that. Then again, I doubted he'd admit to feeling guilty when he was awake. It might not even be a feeling he was conscious of. Still, it wasn't like I hated him for bringing me here. But I suppose I'd never made a point to tell him that. I would have if I had known it was bothering him. Yeah, you guys didn't have that chat this time. In any case, my words seemed to calm him down. He quieted again, and his breathing evened out as he fell back into deeper sleep. I let the back of my fingers rest against his forehead for a few seconds. He felt a little warm to the touch, but I wasn't sure if it was fever or if my hands were cold. It might be the latter. I lay there for a while, keeping an eye on him before I dozed off again. Alright, and then Jack woke up again. I know you want to get back out there, but Celeste only did the bare minimum to stabilize you. With Tara in bad shape as well, she had to pace herself. She lacked the energy to treat you both fully. She stopped the bleeding, knitted up your injuries somewhat, and stabilized your size so you could self-regenerate. But your injuries were really bad. You had brain damage from a psi burst, as well as 2 serious wounds and a broken wrist. It's going to take time to recover. I hope you realize how close we came to losing you. Jack let out a quiet, broken laugh that petered out to a soft cough. Okay. Because we didn't heal him this time. I only wish I could do more for him than worry. Worry couldn't help him in any practical way. Alright. Now, bath time. Are we helping you with your bath again? Let's see. This time we're doing the maybe you should be more cautious too. We're not doing the emotional one. Maybe you should be more cautious too.
Not everyone can be cautious, Butterfly. Not if we want to catch the culprits.
Being reckless won't catch them either. Not if it just gets you hurt.
People's lives are on the line. I can't afford to sit around waiting for it to be safe to act.
I'm trying to tell you that your life is important too. What good does it do anyone if you act rashly and get yourself killed?
What good does it do if I'm cautious and never get these missing people back to their loved ones?
He winced as the movement and tension jarred his injuries. A sigh escaped me as I rubbed my forehead. I didn't want to fight with him. I only wanted him to take better care of himself. He seemed loath to do that, though. I pulled the tray of food over for him and changed the subject. Most likely, neither of us was going to budge on this one. No wonder Celeste rants about you so much. But I couldn't resist one more parting shot.
I have to do what I feel is right, Morgan.
Even if it means picking a fight when you're outmatched?
I didn't know I was outmatched until they started flinging those stupid energy things at me.
Energy things? I thought they were flinging cybursts at you.
Oh, they were. That's just not all they were flinging.
Okay. His internal injuries weren't healed yet, but Celeste had closed the open on his side, so a bath shouldn't be a problem. Okay, bathing's still on the menu.
A bath? Seriously?
You were too shaky to stand up a few hours ago. You heal fast, but I think it would be best to take it easy for now. And I can help with a bath.
You're going to help me take a bath?
Okay. I might as well do the other line. We didn't skip much.
Butterfly, if you wanted to see me naked, you just had to ask.
What I want to see is you not hurt yourself trying to shower alone. Setting aside concern for your general well-being, I promise to keep an eye on you. If you end up hurting yourself, I'm the one who's going to get lectured.
Ah, so it's just self-preservation. I see. And here I thought you were worried about me.
I am, but I also don't want another of Celeste's lectures.
I see, I see. Well, I guess there's no reason to refuse an offer of help.
Interesting. Way less flirting that time. Less bold Morgan and a flustered Jack. I stood and went to the adjoining washroom, shooting him a teasing grin over my shoulder as I did. I'll go get the bath ready. Don't fall asleep before I get back. Okay, not yet. If it was up to Celeste, he wouldn't be getting out of bed for a week. But he really did need a bath, because that boy stinks. As I ran the water for him, I hunted around until I found where he kept the clean towels. When I went to check on him, I half expected him to be asleep, but he was staring up at the ceiling in silence as I went to help him up. There we go. You can't move very well yet, not with those wounds still not fully healed. I don't mind helping. I gave him a teasing grin as I crouched next to the bathtub. Someone has to keep an eye on you for at least one more night, I guess.
You could ask someone else to do it.
I could, but there's no reason to. I already volunteered and everyone else is busy. Besides, until you're healed or the heating is fixed, I'd rather not make you suffer freezing your butt off at night because if I go, my blankets go with me.
Guess I should take what attention I get and not complain about it.
Probably. Okay, less innuendo with the bathing this time. Maybe it's nothing. I've been debating if I should say something.
Morgan, I realize you are new here. However, that doesn't change that you are a queen-ranked Esper.
I'm not sure my being a queen rank means much.
I believe it means a great deal, actually. If it didn't, there wouldn't have been a rush to acquire your abilities, and you wouldn't be here. Jack said you may possess a special sensitivity when it comes to sight-based abilities. I would welcome any observations.
This is just a normal observation. Nothing about my abilities. Okay. It's about eyes and things. Oh, right. About whether the messages from her family are genuine. I won't say it hasn't crossed my mind. Though, I don't think that, even with your skills, you'd be that adept at posing as my mother. The corners of his mouth slightly turned up, a small flicker of a smile before it vanished again.
I suppose that's true.
Are we doing any affection here? Nope, no affection for Jack. He saved my life, explained what was going on, got me away from Endgame. I feel like I owe him a lot, and I hate seeing him hurt.
Jack lacks a sense of self-preservation sometimes. I can't tell if he is that self-sacrificing because he is truly selfless, or if he simply has lost the ability to care about his own well-being.
I would hate to find out it's the latter.
Sometimes people who have experienced a great deal of loss become obsessed with avoiding any future loss.
Speaking from experience there. To the point they don't realize there are people afraid of losing them.
Correct. More than anything, Jack hates the powerlessness that comes with losing someone, or watching someone else lose someone. It's good there are more people who worry for him, whatever the reason. I hope eventually there's someone who can make him value himself more.
I also hope that. Will it be me? I mean, we're trying for a sweet ending, so hopefully. What's a good thing? Okay. Using a wider variety of abilities.
Probably a good thing, all else considered.
I might need to expand my abilities to healing biokinesis if you keep being reckless.
Huh. Well, it would be amazing if you could. Sylvia always struggled to mimic any F-class abilities. But then you're F-class, so it might not be the same for you.
At the very least, it would be useful if you insist on continuing to get injured.
I don't insist on it exactly.
Celeste tells it differently, I'll have you know.
I'm sure she does.
Everyone was worried about you. Myself included.
Thanks. For worrying. For helping. I appreciate it.
Okay, not yet. Someone has to look out for you. Are you even aware how much time Sylvia spends worrying about you in that journal?
Huh. Well, I've read it.
I figured you must have. Music change?
The first time I read it,
He paused and looked at me a long time.
I thought it seemed like she wrote it for someone. I guess I figured it was me at first. It didn't take long to work out it was someone else.
Okay, this is gonna be a different conversation altogether. Were you aware it was meant for me when you gave it to me?
I was pretty certain, yeah. Half the time I didn't know what was going on in Sylvia's head. Let's just say she left a little psychic message for me at the end, in the form of a password-locked journal entry. Didn't exactly give me your entire backstory, but I saw flashes of your face. When I met you the first time, I recognized you from that. So I'm certain she wanted you to read that journal, and that she wanted us to meet. I suspected at first it was just because she didn't want you to end up the way she did. But now I wonder if she had something else in mind.
Like what? He shot me a teasing grin.
Could have been trying to set her little brother up with an intelligent and beautiful woman.
I'd like to think she had a higher motivation than that in mind.
There is no higher motivation than making sure your family's happy.
Okay, sure. But at least talking to him confirmed that suspicion. But it brought other questions to mind. Did Sylvia somehow orchestrate my coming here, ensuring Jack would recognize me so he'd want to help? Or had she just known it would happen and wanted to help me for some reason? I doubted Jack knew the answer to any of those questions either, so I didn't ask. We stood up there a long time together in comfortable silence before Jack finally needed to go rest. Our short conversation had given me a lot to think about.